I don't really actually want to talk to most of you. Good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. How are we all doing today? Well, the reason why I don't really want to talk to most of you is that we've had fun. And then some of you are just mean to me. No, I tease. Of course, I like talking to you. I like talking to all of you. That's why we're here, isn't it? So, because this was a emergency sponsorship, well, emergency in big quotes, obviously, we were going to talk about this Tuesday, but then of course I had my personal emergency, and then we were going to talk about Wednesday, but then of course missiles dropped, so we are talking about it today. And today's discussion is brought to you by our banking lobby sponsors. Thank you very much for the banking lobby for sponsoring this. If you need financial advice, if you need personal banking, if you need private banking, my boys and girls over at the banking lobby are doing a fantastic job. I'm not sure I would vouch for all of them. Because some of these boys in private banking are, well, they're in private banking, right? So that tells you a lot. Anyway, private bankers, am I right? There we go. I actually got in. Not got in. I actually almost got into private banking after one of my other stints, just because I had built up such a nice book, so-called digital Rolodex, so to speak, that I probably could have just brought a whole bunch of clients, but no. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about crypto. I don't wanna obviously we are talking about it because of FTX, because of the collapse of FTX. But there are other sort of more, shall we say, I don't want to say interesting, but also more fundamental reasons why we're talking about crypto. And that is because crypto, obviously, as most of you who know me will know, I consider crypto, just like I consider tech, to be a Federal Reserve-mediated bubble, right? So, FOMC, not, let's just say Federal Reserve-mediated bubble. And let me just, most of you will know this. Let me just put it into context for our year one students. Since the 2008 Great Recession, the interest rates have been comically low across the West for basically ever since, right? So that's what we're almost at 15 years of comically low interest rates. And what that means when we have comically low interest rates is that it means money is really, really, really cheap. If you're for financial institutions, you can borrow money really, really cheaply, right? And obviously, the Federal Reserve did this because they were the only ones that could stimulate the economy after the Great Recession, because there was no fiscal ability to do so, right? And we're talking now completely. We're kind of isolated to America for this, but really it applies for the rest of the world, where both there was simply no fiscal political will to stimulate the economy, and therefore it was left up to the central banks. Oh, right. Hold on, give me 1 second. It was left up to the central banks to do this, and obviously they didn't. The only way central banks could do this was via. Just add this in. There we go. Okay. The only reason that central banks were able to stimulate the economy was via cheap money, right? So it does. Yes, you're very, very correct. It comes down to a political inability to address the problem, which led to the central banks having to pull a lot more weight than they really should have. Right? And when you leave it all to the central bank, yes, you see growth, and yes, everyone benefits from it. In fact, I would claim that most of the tech industry and most sort of tech adjacent, bitch tech CEOs, and within that I include people, like Elon, like Mark, we're kind of including people like Jeff in it, and actually Reed Hastings is one of the big beneficiaries of that as well. Reed Hastings of Netflix, and of course the Google boys, and actually, you know what? Let's throw in Microsoft as well. Why not, right? Like, so basically, the entire tech industry was propped up by this wave of cheap money, and cheap money is great because it stimulates innovation, and it means that venture capitalists, sort of the lifeline of the tech industry, were able to borrow really, really cheaply and fund many, many, many different ventures. And that led to this culture of burning money to make money, right? And obviously one of the biggest ones that we know was Uber, VC culture of burning money. Uber, e.g. Uber, let's say Moviepass, but the company that most signifies this is really Softbank, right? Softbank and its vision fund, like cloud, okay, let's say Softbank via that's not the right one, via Adam, right? Adam Newman, who coincidentally is starting another company, but that's a whole other issue. Adam Newman is sort of, to me, people call it the Moviepass economy, because Moviepass, obviously, like, you pay them $20 and you get to see as many movies as you want. It simply wouldn't make any sense. But I think, to me, the person who signifies this cheap money leading to stupid bets the best is actually Adam Newman and WeWork, where my boy Adam just, like, what did he say? He called it the first physical social network, the world's first physical social network. This was WeWork, right? And it's just like the balls on a man to be able to claim that is just anyway. Yes, I'm getting to the point, and the point is, all this cheap money, it can't all go into VC, right? Like, it can't all go into venture, and so it must go somewhere. That cheap money goes somewhere. It goes to, like, the overpaid engineers at these companies, at these stupidly valuated companies. It goes to it goes to egos, right? And so in essence, a lot of the social problems that we see in the past decade have been because of the availability of cheap money. Like, it was San Francisco's housing crisis. We see just in general housing crisis, right? Both the easy money, and there's the other issue, is that easy money from the US means that the suppliers to the US make too much easy money, and that money has to go somewhere. And I'm really only talking about one supplier here, which is China, right? Like, and China, there's a bunch of Chinese money that is technically, it starts off at the Federal Reserve, it goes into these overvalued companies, it goes into China, and then it goes back out into the world and inflates property prices in random places like New Zealand, Canada, all that good stuff. Housing, Federal Reserve dollars going into overpriced startups, going into China, and then leaving again to turn housing prices stupid all over the world. Right? Like, this is fairly well understood, I think, for mostly everyone. And so some of this money went into crypto. And some of this money went into crypto. It went into Bitcoin, and so because there was so much money in Bitcoin, and therefore it drove up the asset prices of Bitcoin, and therefore people thought more people thought it was legitimate, and therefore more people put their disposable income into Bitcoin, and therefore even more people thought it was legitimate. Right? Like it's a starts with a virtuous cycle of Federal Reserve money that props up asset prices. And to our year 2 and 3 students, this should sound very, very familiar, right? Cheap money props up asset prices. This is fundamental in every single macroeconomic thought that we have existing today, because it is backed up by fact. Whenever you have too much money, it props up asset prices. And so asset prices in crypto went crazy, right? And as long as money was cheap and there was a consistent net inflow into crypto, there will be no issues. And that sounds familiar. I'm sure it does. As long as money was cheap and it was net inflow, no issues. What does it sound like? Obviously, it sounds like a Ponzi, right? I.e., it is a Ponzi. So what happened? I wish it were that simple. Obviously, what we consider 75% of all of crypto to be Ponzi's in this day and age. Before FTX and my boy SBF, FTX was considered to be a well-managed version, right? But in part, it was only well-managed because SBF was able to sell, was charismatic enough, and here's the key: SBF was tech-executive enough for the venture capitalists, for the tech media, to buy into his dream, right? So let's put that down. SBF was tech-exec enough for the adjacent media to buy, for adjacent media and VCs to buy into his dream. No, I never did. So my venture funds never really touched that stuff. No. Because I have been calling. If you okay, so you guys will have to back me up on this. I've been calling for this. I've been calling this since 2019. Right? When like it's ridiculous. Anyway, so what happens, right? So what happens when cheap money stops? And this is where the lessons kind of diverge from what are actually, these lessons don't diverge at all. Let me rephrase that. Now we're relearning the lessons of what happens when cheap money stops, right? Like, obviously, I'm not going to quote one of our boys who talks about this a lot. But what happens when cheap money stops? Well, we all learn a lesson of what happens when the tide goes out. Actually, let's quote Warren Buffett and his tide going out. Right? So Warren Buffett has a famous phrase of essentially saying, it's only when the tide goes out do we see who isn't wearing any pants, swimming trunks, whatever. And the tide has gone out starting March this year. Remember, I called for. I was about to say that. So remember, I called for an emergency FOMC rate hike in January of 2022. Remember that? We talked about it then. I'm talking about it now. The Federal Reserve did not until its February meeting. And so what happened, right? Like, there was a complete dissolution of the markets, like a complete runaway of inflation because of that. Because the FOMC dallied too long, we are hitting 5% in 2023, whereas we could have probably stopped at 3% if they had gone for a December hike. December 2021 hike or a January emergency hike, like I kept telling you to do. Well, because there's a difference, right? Like, if the markets think that it'll be fine, then you have stopped this underinvestment ahead of time, right? Like, you have stopped certain institutional expectations of inflation ahead of time, and then that means you have to fight it less. Whereas and I appreciate it's only a 1 month difference, but the 1 month difference is huge, because an emergency January hike would have told the world that the Fed viewed this as serious, and therefore forward guidance would have been completely different. But it's not. Anyway, let's not talk about the central bank. Let's talk about what happens when cheap money slips. When we're talking about these assets, right, crypto assets, we are talking about bits of programs, bits of things that have no intrinsic value except for the value that we assign them. It's basically fiat currency, right? A currency by belief, right? Like, if tomorrow everybody considers the US dollar worthless, then obviously it's going to have no intrinsic value, and therefore you cannot trade with it. That's exactly what happened to Bitcoin, crypto. If tomorrow nobody actually, let's put it this way: everyone forgot the existence of the US dollar, then it would be worthless. And you could have you could be a billionaire in US dollar terms, and you would have no ability to do anything because your money is worthless. Nobody will accept it, and therefore nobody will give you goods in exchange for it, right? And that is what happened here. Crypto's value is inherently based on its ability to generate future value. We see that with things like FTT. We see that with, I guess, Serum as well, which are all FTX products. And we'll loop back to FTX after this. But essentially, if you if you bought FTT, I'm very sorry. I keep in mind, I have been telling you guys since 2019 not to buy crypto, right? Let's be very clear about this. At the very beginning of our community existing, I have been telling you guys not to buy crypto. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, I've been telling you guys not to use that money to buy crypto. Okay? Let's be very clear about this. Since the beginning, I've said no crypto. Let's be very clear about this, okay? Like, I will not broker any disagreement. Anyway, what was I saying? So when asset prices, when no new cheap money is coming in, then suddenly the earlier people that had bought in earlier are not seeing the returns that they like, and therefore they start cashing out. And when they start cashing out, you start getting a whole bunch of fun things, right? Like, what do you want me to say? It's a Ponzi, and we see that, right? Like, it is a Ponzi, and so. While that may work as a punishment, I don't think the people involved will agree to it. So there's a proposal amongst the channels, the corporations of power, that says everyone who lost money on crypto should get together, stand together, take their pants off, and have a picture taken of them. Now, can you imagine if some of my boys agreed to that? Actually, you guys can. And also, our boy IK reminded me, you guys can all actually, let's take that picture. Let's get them to take that picture. Every one of you will hold I'll print it out if I have to. We'll hold a mask of Doge. I guess that's probably what it's called, right? The Shiba Inu coin. Not the actual Shiba coin, but the meme Elon Doge coin. hold a mask of the Shiba Inu in front of your face, and we'll take a picture of you of all of you without pants on. I don't care if you're male, female, whatever in between. All of you will go out with no pants on, and then take a picture. Of course, we'll have to coordinate that, but we'll figure it out. We'll have our administrators figure it out. That's what they're there. And also, okay, you wish I never ever promote any crypto. Everything I've ever said about crypto is the fact that it's terribly stupid. Anyway, so the tide went out. We found that a whole bunch of people had no pants on, and FTX stepped in, SBF stepped in and said, you know what, I'll buy all of these good assets, or what he thought were good assets, what he claimed were good assets, to stem the contagion. And it makes sense, right? If you're not wearing pants and you're able to make the water come back, then you should make the water come back so that nobody can see that you're not wearing pants. I think that's like not to overquote Warren Buffett, right? If you're not wearing pants, you should make water. If you have the ability to make the water, you probably should, so that people don't see you not wearing pants. Whatever. You can quote me on this. You can quote me on this. Muses 2022. There we go. It's true though, right? Like I think as a general Ponzi scheme thing, that is what you're supposed to do. Like, you want to protect your own reputation, and if you can make sure that nobody sees you without pants, then you should make sure that nobody sees you without pants. SBF tried. Didn't have enough water. CZ definitely also doesn't. And that's the end of that story, right? Like, what can they do? They can't do anything, because when you play with currencies like this, you have to, like, there must be some amount of intrinsic value behind it. Otherwise, when the money becomes expensive, people are going to leave. That's just, to me, that's common sense, right? If there's no intrinsic value, then when the money is expensive, people will leave. If there is no intrinsic value, if when money is expensive, people leave. And you can kind of see what FTT and Serum, whatever, we're trying to do, which is, if you, it essentially is a bet on both FTX as an exchange and Serum as a protocol, right? I can't remember what the Serum coin was. Doesn't matter, not important. In that sort of post-modern, post-Web 2 world, if everything is on the blockchain, then yeah, there is intrinsic value in being able to operate the blockchain, right? Because there is other stuff that's being generated while people, other stuff being generated on the blockchain, and therefore they need that blockchain, and therefore they're willing to pay for it, and that is the way to monetize, right? It makes perfect sense, but we're not there. This from the very beginning, crypto has been a tech bro game, right? From the beginning, crypto has been a tech, and there's nothing left for them. I hope that explains what crypto is about. What we're seeing now. I think at the end of the day, this is really, I don't want to call it the end of crypto. Mostly because I believe there is intrinsic value in a distributed ledger. Absolutely, 100%. In terms of transparency, in terms of efficiency, all of these things, there is potential there. But when you incentivize the building of that potential via inflow of future investors, then you get into Ponzi, and there's no way I can support that, right? Like because what you're saying is there is no intrinsic value. If the moment you run this type of network as a Ponzi scheme, then you are disregarding any possible future use of it because you are so focused on attracting new investors, right? If there was focus on making it work, on making it do something that has value outside of the tech bro community, then I think we would be in a completely different position today. Does that make sense? If there was a genuine attempt at creating good work outside of the tech bro community, then we would be in a completely different position today. And that's it. That's all I have to say on this topic. And I'm not going to talk about it anymore because we have a whole bunch of other stuff that we should be talking about. We have to do writing. We have to play our video games. You have to make fun of me for other things, right? You can't. We can't just keep talking about crises. Like obviously yesterday we talked about Poland, and obviously today we're talking about this. But it's just like the world is a difficult place, and you lot need to learn to to be able to handle it. Cool. Okay, thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox, please don't do Chrome, and I shall see all of you tomorrow when we will be doing our Friday drinks, whatever thing. I'm having red right now, you know what? YOLO. Don't hold. No. Do not ever hold on for dear life, because that is only a bro's way of parting you from your money. Cool? Bye. Oh, also wink.